Ooh, that's not the right one. That doesn't work. That absolutely does not work. What in the world did I just do? Let me go back to everything and try and find. Hey everyone, welcome to another recording of the Polite Society podcast presented by the Second Amendment Foundation. As you can tell, we're running late today, had late changes, and let me show you. This is our crew today. It's me and Charlie. So it's going to be just kind of getting everything trying to work. If you're catching us live and you want to comment on the live video, you can do that by either comment. If you're watching us on the Polite Society podcast feed, you can comment either on the YouTube or the Facebook video. We'll get those right away. If you're catching us anywhere else, OpsLens or anywhere else that picks us up, go to Twitter, tweet with the hashtag PSPodcast. I'm entering that now in my search for Twitter in my software. And I'm hooking up other social media. Come on, there we go. They get that one hooked up and turn it on. We are running late, and I am very sorry for that. But I think on my end, I'm ready to go. How about you, Charlie?
I am as ready as can be.
Okay. Oh, goodness. You know what? I need to... Before we go live, before we start recording, we've got a comment. I don't know if I like this or not, but
jeez. What did they say about me?
Yeah. What's sup, perps? Instead of peeps, perps.
Sup, perps. I'm going to be doing the show from this side. This side.
All right. I think, let me get show notes up here so I can close that out. And I got so darn many tabs open. There we go. I think I'm ready to have Massad Ayoob introduce us. You ready, Charlie?
Let's do it.
Okay, here we go. Massad Ayoob in 5, 4, 3.
Hey gang, this is Massad Ayoob from the Pro Arms Podcast. I'm here to remind you that our podcast is a member of the Self-Defense Radio Network, and I'm going to suggest you do what we do and check out the other podcasts at selfdefenseradio.net.
Treat every firearm as if it's loaded.
Never point a firearm at anything you're not willing to kill or destroy.
Keep your finger off the trigger until you are on target and ready to fire.
Always be sure of your target and what lies beyond it.
Hi, welcome to the Second Amendment Foundation's Polite Society podcast. We're recording this one on Monday, October the 10th, 2022. I'm Paul Lathrop. On tonight's show, we'll talk with Dr. Robert Young about red flag laws.
I'm Charlie Cook, and we'll talk about the Trace being late to the game, trying to figure out Biden's ATF, trying to figure out that Biden's ATF is going after FFLs.
We'll also talk about 28 Senate Republicans taking Amalgamated Bank to task for the new credit card tracking scheme.
And we will talk about a Mississippi store owner who defended himself and his store even when he was behind on the draw. So climb aboard, strap in,
and hang on. Episode 635 of the Second Amendment Foundation's Polite Society podcast starts right now. All right, Charlie, real brief, we're going to do a what's been up with us segment. Since you're the only one here that's not me, I'm going to start with you. You just got back from Rod of Iron, man. Other than talk about that or anything else you want to talk about that since you've been on the, it's been a while since you've been on.
It's been a while.
Society.
Yeah. It has. So obviously, a couple of weeks ends ago was GRPC and AmCon, and AmCon was really good, and GRPC was awesome as well. And this past weekend on Friday, I took a 6-hour drive to Bellefonte, Pennsylvania, to apply for my Pennsylvania non-resident permit, which cost me a whopping $20 and 1 hour of time. And then I drove 3 hours back to Scranton, Pennsylvania to pick up Diana Muller at the Wilkes-Barre Scranton International Airport. And then we drove a half hour to the hotel where we stayed for the Rod of Iron. Saturday, I did a fashion show with Amanda Suffolk and, of course, her brother Rob Campbell, and all of the great people we had as volunteers, as models at the Rod of Iron. I moderated a panel between Dr. Val Fennell, Alan Gottlieb, and Amanda Suffolk talking about the Bruin case. And on Sunday, I ended up doing the Pledge of Allegiance at the beginning of the Rod of Iron. And today, since it's Rod of Iron Day, I'm wearing my Educate Over Legislate DC Project hoodie, and I'm not a hoodie guy. So I'm wearing this because Di gave this to me over the weekend, and I'm wearing my Car Arms baseball hat. So I'm Rob Campbell from the neck up, and Amanda Suffolk from the neck down. That's probably not a good way to put it.
That's quite the combination.
It's not a good way to put it, but I'm sporting a hat like Rob Campbell, and I'm sporting a DC Project hoodie for all the ladies.
Let me see if I can get you're still too close. Can't really see the sweatshirt. There we go.
There we go.
Educate, not legislate. There we go. All right. On my end, we just got last weekend, not the one that just finished, but the one before that was AmCon and GRPC. My busiest week of the year. I got a few more breakout videos of AmCon is done. AmCon is up. I got all the breakout videos for AmCon up. GRPC I'm still working on. I'll be working on that throughout this week, and I'm hoping very soon to have those completed, and everybody that spoke at GRPC will get their own video up on the SAF website that they can share out, or they can take, or they can do it whatever they like with. So
GRPC this year was certainly a little different than it has been, obviously, over the last couple of years when it was virtual. But something that they did this year is they wanted to get to know some of the two-way personalities.
Yep.
And they had a couple panels of people, and we didn't know what the questions were. And they gave us some questions, and we had a chance to answer them off the cuff, which was really cool, and gave us an opportunity to learn more about each of the people and why they're doing what it is that they're doing. And that was really cool. And then at the very end, Cheryl and Amanda spent some time with Julianne, asking her some questions and just talking with her. Yeah, and then Alan came up and joined that very informal conversation with them as well, and that was pretty amazing.
I almost stopped recording because that was the end of GRPC before that happened, and I almost stopped recording. I didn't.
That's priceless.
So I'm not entirely positive that went up on live stream, but I do know it's recorded and it will be on its own video and released. The story that Alan gave about owning a talk radio network, that was mind-blowing. I work for SAF and I didn't know that.
I know, this is like the things that you learn at GRPC. It's pretty amazing. And he was saying that the reason he bought the radio stations was so he could have some advertising, and get the word out about some pro-gun radio shows.
Yes, and through owning the network was where I couldn't look. I as a young man, and this is 30 years now ago, I didn't realize that Alan Gottlieb gave birth to the overnight radio phenomenon that was Art Bell.
I was completely fooled by that as well. I had no idea Alan put Art Bell out there.
Yeah, and I got to say, I spent a lot of sleepless nights listening to Art Bell, and to know that Alan had something to do that just, poof, mind blown. So,
completely.
all right, well, we've got Dr. Young is patiently waiting for us. We've got to step aside to our first break. Let's do that. And I want to, on our way out, I want to mention to everybody, and we do have some comments coming in, including, let me get this one in very fast. Name dropper.
Hey, this is how I roll, Mo. This is how I roll.
I want to mention, if you want to get your comments on the air, again, comment on the live video, or if you are watching anything other than Polite Society Podcast feed, head over to Twitter, tweet with the hashtag PS Podcast. We're going to step aside to break. When we come back, Dr. Robert Young, hang on right back right after this.
This portion of the Polite Society Podcast is brought to you by the Armed Citizens Legal Defense Network. If you carry a defensive handgun, you need protection from the aftermath of prosecution. Even if you do everything right, you can be the victim of an overzealous prosecutor or even be falsely accused. That is where the ACLDN comes in. They provide immediate assistance when you need it most. If you find yourself under arrest, they immediately pay bail money and the retainer for your attorney. Additional funds are available for trial and civil proceedings. Beyond the money, they have far and away the best team in the industry, providing you invaluable information and training DVDs that are included with your membership, and who stand ready to work with your lawyer on your defense. People like Massad Ayub, John Farnham, James Fleming, Tom Givens, Emmanuel Capelson, Dennis Tuller, and led by Network President Marty Hayes. Initial membership is only $135 for your first year, and you get 8 incredible training DVDs and other educational material when you join. If you don't have tens of thousands of dollars to defend yourself at your disposal right now, you need to be a member of the ACLDN. Go to armedcitizensnetwork.org and become a member today. And please mention that you heard about them on the Polite Society Podcast.
Hey, and welcome back. This is the interview segment of the Polite Society Podcast presented by the Second Amendment Foundation. Joining us today, Dr. Robert Young. Dr. Young is one of the driving force members behind Doctors for Responsible Gun Ownership. I got to speak with him at length at Gun Rights Policy Conference, and Dr. Young, what I want to do today, and we talked about this a little bit when we were outside at GRPC, I want to specifically talk about red flag laws. These things are promoted as they're all about mental health, and yet they do nothing for the mental health of the person they're going after.
Nothing.
They're going after the guns. That's it. There's no treatment. There's no evaluation. There's no nothing. They leave what they're considering, and they're saying this is a mentally unstable person. That's why we're taking away their guns, and yet they're leaving that what they say is a mentally unstable person out in the general public. They still leave the keys to the pickup truck or bigger truck. They still leave gasoline in that person's possession, axes, all kinds of other tools of mass destruction. They just take away the firearms, and they don't give this person any help.
That's right. Those are amongst our many complaints about red flag laws as they are currently constituted. Could I just take a second, though, because first of all, thank you, Paul and Charlie, for having me on tonight. Love you guys and what you do, and it was great to see you at GRPC, too. It was great to see Alan. I have been telling him that, without knowing anything about the history, that he really needs to take a long speech, magazine article, something to tell all of his 2A colleagues, followers, supporters, how he did this from the beginning. And we got a little bit of that at the conference, especially that last bit with Julianne and then Ellen. But I buttonholed him outside of the conference room at one point, telling him this again. And he said, well, you want to hear? And I said, of course, yeah. And he said it'd take 2 minutes. 10 minutes later, he had hit the high points of these 30 years. And I just couldn't believe it. It's amazing stuff. This man and then this woman who came together early on in this course from nothing, just used their smarts and just great insight into the process of how to build interest and then law supporting the Second Amendment with a time horizon of years and decades by plan. And they did it. It's just, it needs to be in a book. And I don't know if he'll ever do that, but, I think we need to keep on him to put this together because it is inspiring. So that's about Alan, whom I admire immensely for that. And about ACDLN, I am a member of that network. It's been particularly good here in New York because New York is one of the states that have outlawed, to the extent they can, insurance, protecting me against the expenses of defending a self-defense lawsuit. And that's unique to ACDLN. Everything else clearly defined as insurance. They're fighting Washington State, but it is a wonderful crew, and it's only about defending you. There's nothing else involved.
Yes.
So I can highly recommend it personally. Absolutely. Oh, let's see. What did you want me to come on and talk about today? I'm
basically what I want to talk about is red flag laws primarily. I want to get into DRGO and other things as well,
sure.
But
okay. So
primarily I want to talk about red flag laws, and really they are they work against what they say they want to do.
Right. Actually, I remembered what you wanted me to talk about. I just was trying to segue back with you.
Sure.
Paul. These laws are focused on gun confiscation. There's no reason to think of them as anything but gun confiscation laws, period. There's a whole list of things we object to as doctors, in fact, let alone just as citizens of the United States and wanting our constitutional protections just like anyone else. If you delve into that, these violate the 4th, 5th, 6th, and 14th Amendments, let alone whatever the Second Amendment might have to do with the government confiscating your guns. There, as you pointed out, there is no follow-up. When someone is sufficiently potentially dangerous for it to be ethical, let alone under the law, to take their guns away, then they are either a criminal or they are ill. There's nothing else to it if they're that dangerous, because people who aren't either one are not dangerous. So as you point out, there's no required mental health follow-up. Particularly in our culture nowadays, the police are particularly reluctant to take people into custody if there's any imputation that they were too hard on them, and that probably applies to these things too. So what you have is someone complaining about someone else that they think they might be dangerous for some reason, and if the police or a judge or whoever in that state is responsible for making the decision decides to, they can show up, take their guns, walk away, and I don't know what happens next. And it should be a worry, in fact, if it's that important. There's a lot of other problems. As we well know, there's no due process. These are what's called ex parte hearings, when the complainant's maybe evidence, if you want to call it that, usually it will go to a judge who tells the police to go get them. But the subject of the order doesn't even know what's happening, let alone has any right to object to it in person, which completely confutes all the principles of American jurisprudence, beginning with the Constitution. The initial period of confiscation can be up to a year, the initial period. Usually it's a couple of weeks, and then you have the right to appear. But any action you take, if you're the subject of one of these, is entirely at your expense. And not ACDLN, not any of the insurers for self-defense will or can or probably should cover that. And you're stepping into a process that's going to cost you personally tens of thousands of dollars if you're going to object. False accusations. Well, these happen all the time with people seeking restraint orders against other people. And neither in those nor in these gun confiscation proceedings are the penalties for false accusation anywhere near as significant as the impact of having your personal property confiscated and not being able to get back to it without extraordinary expense and time. And when they take your guns, where are they going to take them? You know, first of all, families should be involved, which leads to some other options that we know exist. We heard about them at GRPC. But if the police take them, which is what happens, and they get thrown into some evidence storage, we know from reports that they don't come back in pristine condition or even as well as they left. So you've got private property having been damaged by the government with, again, no compensation even if you do get them back. Above all, there's no follow-up. You know, one of the points I made in my talk that included this is that if it's valid to do this, and it usually isn't, then there should be either a criminal arrest or a mental health arrest for evaluation for a mental illness. One or the other issues are inherent in a situation that's dangerous enough to require confiscating any weapons. Of course, you pointed out that, of course, they don't confiscate any other weapons. And how do they know they've got all the weapons?
Yeah.
In the first place, the whole thing is ultimately a scam, I'm afraid. And the data so far shows we've lost at least one person who reacted understandably to police showing up at his door with guns drawn, saying, "Give me your guns." The data suggests that maybe a couple of people here and there lives may have been saved. But what it doesn't show is all the gun owners who now are even more afraid of telling someone they need help because they're feeling suicidal or maybe even homicidal. I had one of my patients called me today to say she's feeling homicidal. Now, I know the situation she's in. I know what she means. I can handle that with her. She's my psychiatric patient. She's not going to go out and kill somebody. But what if she were afraid that by telling me the cops might show up and take, anything from her? Is she going to be as open with me, even her treating physician, even with my assurances of confidentiality? I doubt it. And think of all the people out there. I said 10% of us have a significant psychiatric disorder at any one time. 10% of the 40% of people who have guns are 4% of the nation's population, which is almost 250 million. So that's 10 million or so people who have guns right now who have a significant mental illness. That's what we should care about.
You're a lot faster with math in your head than I am. Charlie, you got anything you want to chime in with math?
So why, we talk about these, why would someone get red flagged? Like, is it really these disputes between neighbors? Is it domestic violence situations where The woman says her husband or boyfriend, and I'm stereotyping, of course, but her husband or boyfriend is threatening her because they got into an argument and maybe they have a history of violence.
Sure.
Is it like, I'm afraid? I guess when the red flag stuff started coming up a few years ago, I started thinking about my situation, and some people that didn't like me or didn't like what I do, and I'm like, man, I don't want to hang out with those people, because if I say something that I'm a gun guy or whatever, we start talking politics, and then they say, oh, gosh, Charlie's a crazy right-wing conservative, and he's got guns, so we're going to report him, and we're going to have his guns taken away, and we're going to we're going to red flag him.
Mm-hmm. The answer to that is yes. Any or all of the above can happen. People have been swatted this way. Swatting, of course, means someone basically who's anti-gun calling in a claimed threat from somebody who probably may have a gun at the moment somewhere, perfectly legally. We've seen that happen many times. And this is just another way that can happen. Who can do this? Well, it depends on the jurisdiction, the state, but anyone from a family member, an acquaintance, yes, a neighbor who has it in for you. You built a fence that he doesn't think is pretty and gets mad. I don't know. Teachers, I don't know. I think in some places, spiritual advisors, although I think they're a little less likely to get upset if you're talking to them about it. I don't know. Police certainly can see something, and decide to seek that order in someone they've encountered. Basically, anybody who knows who you are and can tell them where you are can do this for real or for false.
In California, I know they are trying. It has not happened yet, but I would not doubt that it will, because California, I know they're trying to get any former dating partners to be able to. And when I noticed that and when I reported that story, I said, I'm in my 50s now, but when I was in my early 20s, I had an adventurous dating life. And I certainly hope they don't remember me.
That's a story. So that's a story I'd like to hear sometime too, Paul.
Right. And next year at GRPC over a couple of drinks.
Well, statute of limitations, that kind of thing. Anyway. If we could, Dr. Young, you are a psychiatrist. I want to talk a little bit about mental health, and you touched on it a little bit. I want to talk about mental health and firearms ownership. You mentioned when you were at AmCon, you mentioned at a comment you were up on a mic, and I remember you saying that generally the mentally ill are more in danger from other people than they are dangerous to other people. Am I getting that right?
Yes, that's absolutely correct. Yes. Besides the incredible prevalence of mental illness in America, in the world, I mean, it's just another kind of illness. Lots of people have it. Only about 4% of episodes of violence done to other people actually can be attributed to a psychiatric diagnosis in the person acting violent. Only 4%. So 90%, 6% of all the violence in the community is not because of anybody with mental illness. It's still there, but it's not the first assumption. So, and the second fact is what you said. People with mental illnesses, they really aren't out there in 96% of the time trying to affect somebody else aggressively. Which means if you're amongst the 96%, like all the rest of us, who have no injuring anybody, of course you're a lot more likely to get hurt yourself by somebody who has some reason to do it. And most of those, of course, are criminal issues, not not psychiatric issues anyway.
All right, I want to get to a comment here that we've got some comments coming in. Dana, who happens to write our DGU segment for us, Dana says, "Can Dr. Young talk about the abuses of red flag laws, such as disarming a hospital nurse during COVID who needed to talk to someone about her stress level?" That's a concern, I think, overall. In that, do I talk to a psychiatrist because I do not want my firearms taken away? Yet, if I go say I'm hurting, am I gonna end up having the sheriff show up my door and take my guns?
Well, that's an understandable fear by a lot of people. Now, in fact, I would say that capable mental health counselors, which certainly includes psychiatrists at the top end, are much less likely to jump to conclusions about that, and therefore to, I would say, act out about that. But no, there are no guarantees, and I assume Dana's referring then to a specific incident that she's aware of here in New York State, judging by the what she said in her comment. And it doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, in COVID, gosh, everybody in healthcare was enormously stressed, especially hospital workers. And there are some number of things that can happen to you, from anxiety to depression to actually feeling traumatized to the extent you have post-trauma symptoms for that. And of course you need help. Doesn't mean you're dangerous to anybody. As I mentioned in my talk at GRPC about suicide, far the most people with suicidal ideation don't act it out. Not each time anyway. The fact is, they will hint to somebody at least, or just say, I'm feeling this way. And all that means is, I need help. And I talked about how we can all help. We need to. We are our brother's keeper if we want to have a sane, civil, supportive society. And we do,
Well, Dr. Young, we're down at the bottom of the hour. If I could, I want to run to break, and I'm going to have you hang out with one more segment with us, if that's okay.
Happy.
All right. We're going to step aside to break, folks. We're going to hear from JPFO. We'll be right back right after this.
In 1928, Germany required its citizens to register their firearms, making possible Hitler's 1938 Nazi Weapons Act, disarming all Jews. Now ask yourself, what is the real consequence of registration? All in favor of gun control, raise your right hand. Brought to you by Jews for the Preservation of Firearms Ownership, America's aggressive civil rights organization. JPFO.org.
And we are back. This is the second interview segment with Dr. Robert Young from Doctors for Responsible Gun Ownership. Dr. Young, as we were going to break, you were starting to touch on suicide. Yeah. And one thing that I remember you saying in your talk at GRPC, and this kind of stuck with me, it's okay to ask somebody if they're suicidal. Just bringing it up will not push them over the edge. Am I getting that right?
That's exactly right. If you know something to have reason to wonder about that, that's because they're giving you a clue to that. Someone who's absolutely serious about dying doesn't give clues. They go and die. If they're giving clues, it means at least part of them are not quite convinced that that is the only possible answer. And that means they need help. And the only way they can be helped is for someone to care enough to ask and begin to talk to them about it. It's a critical thing that anybody who hears about that can start to do. And then to help them go get professional help. That's how it adds up, for real.
All right.
I've got a question. So I don't want to say in a perfect world, but I'm being a little bit of a devil's advocate here. If somebody says that they are interested in, or they do want to harm someone, they do want to kill someone, they are threatening someone, is it a good idea to go in and check it out? And if that person, has some firearms they're waving around, they say they're going to shoot their neighbor in the face, or they're going to shoot their ex-boyfriend, their ex-whatever, their ex-partner, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. Is it a good idea to pursue a red flag law, or just going with the restraining order, or having the authorities look into that?
Well, if you're convinced that someone really may go out to kill somebody, then obviously you have to intervene in a definitive way. You'd never be able to forgive yourself. Red flag law is an option. It's an option. Obviously, you need to involve someone else. And you're talking about a vanishingly rare issue, really. So I don't want to get people upset about that possibility. But obviously, like with suicidal people, if someone has started to have the idea that they should go out and hurt people, and they say something to that effect, they want to be stopped. It's really important, So yeah, you obviously reach out to family, anyone who's available. If you're their friend and you're talking to them, talk to them about it. Odds are they would rather not end up doing that, even though they're having ideas about it. It's just like suicide. But yes, if you can't help them agree that it's a bad thing and they need to go get help, sure, you have to call the police. If it becomes emergent, if it isn't, you have to try to get them to go to get professional help. You can offer to take their guns for them, of course, if they are willing at all. As we know, there are some organizations out there in different states, a couple of them now, holdmyguns.org, and one working separately in Colorado and somewhere else, as I recall from my talk. I wish I remembered it all. Who are working with FFLs to become safe storage locations for people on a volunteer basis. So there are things that any of us who care about people can do, and we should be doing it. And it's good for the gun community to take that on for each other. One-on-one for the individuals, it's most important, but we are not the bloodthirsty gun nuts that the mainstream media et al. Would like to portray us as. If we're concretely helping people in our community and elsewhere, they can't label us that way.
Dr. Young, I know in the past, when I was growing up in the 70s and 80s, I can remember our neighbor, and when I say neighbor, they lived a half a mile away, but they were the closest house to us. I lived out in the country. Our neighbor was involuntarily committed. The deputy sheriff came, picked them up, and he went to stay at a mental health facility for a while. Last I heard, all 50 states have a psychiatric commitment process. I would think that would be a whole lot better than just a red flag where they take the guns away and leave the person out.
Yes, assuming that they meet the criteria for commitment, which means a severe mental illness. One is either they do represent.
Oh, and he froze up.
Mental illness, they're unable to take care of themselves adequately. But noting that if you're committed against your will to any mental institution, you automatically become prohibited under the NICS. Now, often someone will be taken in for a mental health evaluation at an ER, but then given the opportunity to sign in voluntarily, given the circumstances of their illness and the assessment of their likely dangerousness. So that does protect you from getting automatically prohibited by virtue of having been adjudicated mentally ill, which implies either a judge has said so and committed you or maintained a commitment, or someone like me because you just can't cooperate. Now, those laws are harsh in many ways because you can't, without a great deal of effort and a great deal of money, reverse your prohibition. And in New York, for example, they've been abused badly. With the SAFE Act in 2013, which is, with the SAFE Act in 2013, it became necessary for anyone who was committed to a mental institution, any psychiatric ward, to be reported to the county mental health director, who then would decide whether to report them to the state OMH, Office of Mental Health in New York, who then would decide whether to report them to the NICS. Now, for any commitment, that's legally valid, but in many cases, including places I've worked, county mental health director, the hospital, for fear of liability, would just report everybody who'd been admitted to the county mental health director, voluntary admissions, for which there was no authority under the law. Now, so that's going to get reported to the state. Who in that chain is going to say, oh, well, you're wrong. This person certainly isn't dangerous that way, let alone not committed. Everybody who was admitted for any reason, including voluntarily for a period, it may still be going on, but for some years after that, became prohibited under the NICS as if they had been committed and adjudicated, which is simply illegal. Paloma Campana, a name you guys know, tried very hard to fight this and getting shot down at a higher New York State level. So there's all sorts of ways these laws can be abused by the government who uses them. And I don't trust it.
Let me.
So to me,
Charlie,
to me,
let me get this comment in here real fast. Spartan 6, how are red flag laws not a violation of the Fourth Amendment? Spartan, Dr. Young is a doctor, not an attorney. I'm not an attorney, and Charlie's a long way from it. But,
jeez.
Anyway, in my opinion, they are.
They are, of course, they are. As the Supreme Court, as a court would say, they are facially. They are on their face a violation against the right to unreasonable search and seizure. They're a violation of the rights of the accused, Sixth Amendment, which requires due process. Fifth and 14th. Fifth requires due process. The 14th confers all those rights on anybody, even if it's not the federal government. Of course it's unconstitutional, just like a lot of things, laws that we SAF certainly incredibly well, fight in the courts and have been for years.
Right,
in my opinion, not as an attorney.
Charlie, you were going to go for a question. I'm sorry I smacked you down.
That's fine.
No, that's okay. So it sounds to me like we've had red flag laws, although we didn't call them red flag laws. We've had them for a long time. And it kind of, to me, feels like the government is doing something else that they already have a solution. I'm use that term loosely. They've already got a way that we can get help for people and possibly remove them from a dangerous situation. But now they've got like a better, what's the word I'm looking for? They have a better PR, a better publisher, right? A publicist, excuse me, that's going to come out and, hey, we're going to change the name of it and we're going to call it something else, and it's going to do something that we already have a process for, but we're going to call it something newer.
Right. Well, I agree. I've been a psychiatrist since the 1980s, and whenever one of my patients, or perhaps somebody I first saw in an ER or something, seemed dangerous enough, I could commit them. I've always been able to. Out in a rural county where I worked for 25 years, to my delight. I grew up in a rural area too, like you, Paul. I could work with the police, and if I sent them out to bring somebody in for an evaluation, they would do that. If there was a specific threat about using certain weapons, yeah, they would. They'd talk to family or a friend, and somebody would get them out of there to my satisfaction, or the police would take them if necessary. There's always been ways to do this. This fantastic Emergency Protection Act, red flag law, this is verbiage that doesn't change what can be done by concerned people with the authority to do it, who use that authority properly.
Yeah.
They are gun confiscation laws, as I said to start with. That's all they are.
We've only got a couple minutes left. Dr. Young, I do want to switch gears. I do want you, if you would, talk about Doctors for Responsible Gun Ownership. We've had multiple doctors from your organization on before, but I think you folks are doing great work and are getting the word out in the medical community that the AMA isn't the end-all be-all when it comes to guns.
No, not at all. We've been around since 1994. Our founder, Tim Wheeler, led it until, I think, 15 or 16. And now we have a project director, Dr. Shabinda, Dr. Adine, Dr. Rodale, Dr. Petrocelli, Dr. Zhang. That's the core of our leadership. I edit, so mostly what you see about it comes through me. The AMA represents, as membership, 20% of American physicians, and yet they presume to claim that they represent all of American medicine. It's not true. And in fact, most doctors don't want to have anything to do with the woke progressive nonsense about intervening in their patients' decisions about having and managing their firearms. And a lot of them are realizing that it's all false PR, that's something that doctors should do. It isn't what we should do. We've never been trained to do it. If you get training now about it, you're getting trained by anti-gun people to become anti-gun. So we do that. We also try to connect people with doctors who are supporters of the Second Amendment. We have a referral service accessible on our first page, drgo.us. That's how you find us. And in the context of red flag laws, I just want to mention that if you are interested, look on our homepage, drgo.us, look under policy statements or something like that, and you'll find a page and look at our position paper on red flag laws. And it says much more formal language what we've been talking about tonight. And thank you for having me. We really like getting the word out on these things, and you guys are doing a great job helping us to do that.
Well, you're an easy interview, Dr. Young. It's and an easy person, folks. If you need to get to Gun Rights Policy Conference, because you run into people like Dr. Young, and you can walk right up to him, and he'll take time. If he's not speaking, he'll take time and talk to you. And if you've got questions, I've seen Dr. Young and others when members of the audience just come up and ask questions, they'll take time to answer questions. That's why you need to be at Gun Rights Policy Conference when it happens. Sure. Real quick before we take off to break, I've got to get this one in because it's I just got to. Charlie may not be an attorney, but he did stay at a Holiday Inn Express over the weekend.
Right. You know, I didn't pass the bar, but I have passed a bar.
You stopped, but you did eventually get past.
No, Charlie, I haven't noticed you passing any bars. What I've been
Well, it's a stop. It's a detour. It's a detour.
And I'm gonna be Charlie's, what he says he hates the most right now, because he's got Riding Shotgun with Charlie, but I haven't seen Dr. Robert Young on Riding Shotgun with Charlie yet.
Hey, I have offered numerous times, like all of his friends who want to be on it. So I understand the problem.
We did talk at NRA this year, and the doctor is only in upstate New York, so I've got to get on it, man. I'm telling you, all I do is keep up. That's all I'm trying to do.
Yeah, no, we'll get to it sometime. It's fine. And DRGO, we are happy to go anywhere to speak, to testify. We contribute to amicus briefs. I'm starting to work on one for a DC suit by a different organization. Above all, we're a resource, certainly to the general public, but to all of our 2A organizational colleagues anywhere. I helped with Hold My Guns. The list is endless. When we have the expertise that can help you, let us know. We'll do it. We'll talk. We'll write. We'll be there. Please.
Very cool. Well, folks, we do have to step aside for break again. Dr. Young, thanks for being with us today. When we come back, we've got our news segment, and Charlie and I will get to that right after this.
This portion of the Polite Society podcast is brought to you by The Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant is designed for a broad base of citizens that range from students that don't own a gun on up to advanced students that train often. The Complete Combatant offers several different courses that build upon each other, from avoidance, using verbal commands, and preparing for contact, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, your 911 call, interacting with the police, to even dealing with the legal system in the aftermath. The Complete Combatant courses are a layered approach for all levels of experience that will walk you through all the many stages of decisions while developing a game plan tailored to your skills and your everyday carry. Please visit www.thecompletecombatant.com and make sure you mention this ad to receive 15% off. Again, that's www.thecompletecombatant.com and mention the ad for 15% off.
And I need to hit another button because there we go. Dr. Young signed off, and it just freezes his image there, and I don't want that up for the entire program. Anyway, this is the news segment of the Polite Society podcast presented by the Second Amendment Foundation. Charlie, I want to get to a few stories. The first one, we teased it at the beginning of the show. The Trace had a story out late last week. We've been talking about this particular story for a month now, that the ATF is revoking FFLs at a record rate. I'm going to read a little bit of the Trace story. The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives revoked gun store licenses at a higher rate in 2022 than in any year since 2006, according to data published by the agency on October 4th. The numbers provide the first indication that federal investigators have cracked down on law-breaking gun dealers, following guidance from the Biden administration ordering their agency to take a stricter tack during inspections. This story broke late last week. Again, the Trace is just coming around to this. We've known about it for over a month. We've been talking about this.
We've been talking about it well over a month, haven't we?
Yeah, we have. And it just, the Trace, you would think would, this is them, I believe, being asleep at the wheel. Because the Trace, I would think, would have been all over this. If one gun dealer gets their license revoked, the Trace, you would think, would be on it as anti-gun as they are. But when 1.3% of all gun dealers inspected get their FFLs revoked, that takes that to shake them.
It's I I thought it was interesting, of course, that you put the parentheses around the law breaking part, because we've discussed it here. It's not that they're breaking the law, and when they say breaking the law, again, words have meanings and language means stuff. When people say they're breaking the law, it sounds like they're selling guns to people that don't pass background checks. It sounds like they're selling guns to people that are minors and can't possess firearms. Selling handguns to teenagers or whatever. That's not what it is. It's when they make a mistake on filling out the 4473 in the background check stuff. It's instead of putting 10, putting October. It's forgetting to capitalize the state names, or putting in the old 3-letter abbreviation for states when it's only a 2-letter abbreviation,
or transposing a number in a driver's license.
Right. Those are, I hate saying this.
It says 07. Yes.
I am at that age where it is hard to see, and I am fighting getting cheater glasses. So I completely get that.
Oh, I'm open secret. I don't have the greatest vision in the world to start with. I have gone 52 years without getting bifocals. That changes in January.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Man, oh man, oh man.
Not looking forward to it, but it's to the point where it's got to happen. I can see my screen just fine. I can see the screens here and here just fine, but I've got to do this to read my phone. So.
Right. So we used to talk at AmCon about not getting the up the nose shot. So Paul, you were reading stories like this and then like this.
Yes. That's exactly right, man. That is exactly right. But yeah, it's the big news on that story is just that the Trace, who is so anti-gun, waits till they're smacked in the face to go, oh, the ATF is going after FFLs. Wow. Next story, this off Breitbart, and I know we've talked about this on Polite Society. I believe you were even on the show that week, that there's this new merchant code for guns, for gun sales, that that Visa, MasterCard, and American Express have rolled out. Well, now 28 Senate Republicans are zeroing in on Amalgamated Bank, who's the bank that started it, over credit card companies' September 2022 decisions to recategorize gun sales in a way that allows them to be flagged. On September 11th, Breitbart News reported that Visa caved to Democratic pressure and agreed to give firearm sales standalone merchant code. New York Democrats wanted the code for a purpose of flagging purchases they consider suspicious. MasterCard and American Express gave in as well, with MasterCard going so far as to praise Congress for the midsummer passage of gun control. I'm going to leave it there, but yeah, MasterCard gave a nice flowery comment about how they were so grateful Congress was, they got a nice brown nose over the deal.
I know this is a timely reference, but it's like Kevin Bacon in Animal House with the old, "Thank you, sir, may I have another?" "Thank you, sir, may I have another?"
Yes. That'll drive some comments, I'm sure.
I'm sure you saw this as well. This is something that came up over the weekend. There was PayPal came out and said they were thinking about fining people $2,500.
Yep.
If they made
you said something they disagreed with. Yes.
Yes. And you know what's really crazy is I've had a number of people say, "Well, you should stop using PayPal." Okay, cool. Use Venmo instead. I'm very sure that Venmo is owned by PayPal, so it doesn't make a difference. You know what I mean? Like if PayPal is going to do this and PayPal owns Venmo, then PayPal could, in theory, say to Venmo, "Hey, listen, $2,500 on these people that make purchases that say something that we don't agree with."
Yeah. And Tom Knight and I talked about that story, just about 2 hours ago, on the Bullet. Or I should say the Bizarro Charlie Cook and I discussed that on the Bullet about 2 hours ago. And he brought up a great point with reference to that PayPal story. You know, it was about 6 months ago that there was a Hunter Biden story floating around that everybody that we were all told, well, that's not true. That's you know, that's propaganda. That's not real. And we had a story before that where it was Trump colluding with Russia, and the major media was saying that's true, that's true, that's true, that's true. Well, now we know the exact opposite is true for both of them. If I would have gotten tagged for $2,500 from one of those, would I be getting my money back?
That is a great question. That is a great question. There has to be some sort of, if companies are going to do this, not that I want them to, there's got to be some sort of repercussions that consumers can take. And saying, hey, listen, you took $2,500 from me. It's not that I want my $2,500 back. I do. I also want interest. I also want the hassle that I've had to deal with in this nonsense. So if somebody does something like this, they should, and they find out it's all false, they should really be spanked. And you know, you were listing off all this stuff. I mean, in the whole Trump presidency, the Steele dossier. There's all these things that were just not true, that we're force-fed. I hate saying force-fed, but we're force-fed through mainstream media that all these things are true. And there was no Hunter, all the stuff with Hunter Biden was bunk. Oh, they found his laptop. Oh, it's not bunk. There's pictures. This guy's naked and taking pictures of himself almost everywhere he goes. It's all true. And if the shoe were on the other foot, they would be all over the Trumps for doing this sort of stuff.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And it wouldn't even necessarily need to be a Trump. It could be anybody that has money, period.
Yeah.
It could even be somebody that has money and agrees with them. They start doing what Hunter Biden did, they would be all over them.
Absolutely. Well, this is something I don't have to worry about. I don't have any money.
You and me both. Let's go ahead and get on to the next story. Firearms Policy Coalition announced that a federal judge has expanded the preliminary injunction in Vanderstock versus Garland. Its lawsuit challenges the ATF's frame or receiver rule. In addition, the injunction issued in September expanded the injunction adds protection for individual plaintiffs and plaintiff tactical machining's customers. Excuse me. The judgment reads, part of the judgment reads, having carefully considered the arguments, the evidence, and the law, the court finds that individual plaintiffs and Tactical Machining LLC have demonstrated that each is subject to substantial threat of irreparable harm, wrote Federal District Court Judge Reed O'Connor in his order. Individual plaintiffs and Tactical Machining are therefore entitled to expanded preliminary injunctive relief, enjoining the defendants from implementing or enforcing the final rule against these plaintiffs should alleviate their demonstrable injuries without burdening the defendants, the federal government, unnecessarily. Basically, what that means is that Tactical Machining can now continue business, and people can, including new customers, can go to Tactical Machining and continue to buy their products despite what the ATF says is their new rule, because the judge thinks, look, this is probably going to go against the ATF anyway, because I read Bruin, and we're gonna put this injunction forward. And good on Firearms Policy Coalition for this. They did great work with this one.
Yeah, this is why we need to, as gun owners, we need to diversify who we support and send them a little love. And when I mean love, I mean $25.
Yes, I would absolutely agree. I've always said nobody has done more for the Second Amendment than the Second Amendment Foundation over the past 30 years. We've won more cases, and I love that I can say we now. We've won more cases, and I'm just inferring SAF. SAF has won more cases and gotten more rights back and put places like Chicago, like New York, like California in their place more often than any other entity, including the NRA. Period.
Yeah, and the membership, it's the membership for SAF is nothing like the membership for NRA, and obviously the funds are not the same either. But the SAF is very smart and tactical and wise about the things that they get behind, and it's all things that are good for our Second Amendment.
Yeah, one other, but if I were going to work, there are two other organizations I would recommend besides the SAF is of course number one, and they always have been number one, and that's just not just because they pay my paycheck, but and full disclosure, I am an employee of the Second Amendment Foundation. But if you want to support more than just the Second Amendment Foundation, Firearms Policy Coalition, they're doing fantastic work. And by the way, I'll be in the very near future, I'm saying within the next month to 6 weeks, Adam Kraut is going to be on our airwaves. So I'm looking forward to that one.
Excellent. Very cool. He's going to be on my airwaves as well, Paul.
Really?
Yes, I interviewed him at Gun Rights Policy Conference.
Very cool.
So
yeah, and then also Gun Owners of America. They're well, I do not 100% toe straight in line with them. They're doing very good work, and I do endorse them.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, we are looking at the clock. We're now at the top of the hour. I would like to try and get out of here on time, even though there's 2 of us tonight and not 4 of us fighting for airtime. What I'd like to do, Charlie, I'd like to go ahead and I'd like to jump out of here. Then we'll go to our break, and we'll get to DGUs, and then we'll shut the show down after that. So everybody hang on. We're going to go to one more break. We'll get to DGUs right after this.
New Jersey is a civil rights wasteland where an unconstitutional law known as justifiable need keeps ordinary citizens from exercising their right to bear arms. New Jersey spits in the eye of freedom, ignores the Bill of Rights and the Heller decision. New Jersey politics are an anti-civil rights bulldozer and a spreading cancer. The Coalition of New Jersey Firearms Owners, a tax-exempt nonprofit, has a goal to defeat justifiable need, reverse course on all anti-freedom laws, and render aid to other jurisdictions by filing Supreme Court-bound litigation. CNJFO is a beacon of freedom behind the Iron Curtain in New Jersey. Join CNJFO's strong, enthusiastic patriots. Support the Coalition of New Jersey Firearms Owners today. Protect all our rights and return freedom to the Garden State. To donate or learn more, go to cnjfo.com.
And welcome back to the Defensive Gun Use segment of the Polite Society podcast presented by the Second Amendment Foundation. These discussions...
Sorry.
Yeah.
Dr. Young is back up.
Whoops. Let me do that. There we go. These discussions are not legal advice. Some of us are trainers. Matter of fact, both Charlie and I are trainers. But this is not formal training, and you need formal training. But specifically, you need to go to Utah so Charlie can train you. The Defensive Gun Use segment is intended as information, not as training. As always, the opinions of the hosts are only their own opinions and not those of any sponsors or other affiliations. Charlie, how about I take Mississippi and you take Florida? Sound good?
Perfect.
All right. This one out of Ridgeland, Mississippi. Shoppers were out for a Saturday of shopping at the North Park Mall. At the popcorn store, someone had a different idea. A 16-year-old female decided she wanted the store's money. She pulled a gun on the store owner. She might have been the first to draw, but went away with the prize, and it wasn't the money from the cash drawer. It was a bullet hole in her leg. The store owner managed to shoot her there, which ended her attempt at robbery. Shoppers in the mall heard the gunshot and scattered. One employee was found hiding in the bathroom. For Kathy Courtney, panic didn't set in until she realized her 15-year-old daughter and her daughter's boyfriend were not with her but closer to the gunshot. Her daughter ran away from the noise and found an exit from the mall. I'm really glad it was an isolated incident, but at the same time, you want to feel safe when you're taking your family or your children somewhere like a mall, Courtney said. You don't have to worry about whether it's safe to go with my family and buy something for a homecoming dance. The would-be robber has been charged with aggravated assault with a weapon, and the store owner has not been charged. I'm just wondering what Kathy Courtney, whether she would have rather the robber shot the store owner. I mean, is it better that the store owner got shot, according to Kathy?
So I don't know what the laws are in Mississippi, and I'm certainly not going to pretend to know them. But if she at 16, obviously it's illegal for her to purchase and probably possess a handgun. I'm not sure about ammunition, but if she had a bullet in her leg, I think we should get her for illegal possession of ammunition as well. Like, I'm all for that.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure she's been charged with aggravated assault with a weapon, at least, which is a felony.
Yep.
But, yeah, in all states, you have to be 18 to own a firearm, to buy your own firearm. Pretty sure she didn't get this one from Daddy. Pretty sure this probably came from some gang friend members or something like that. And the other thing, it's really difficult if somebody's got the drop on you. If they've already drawn their gun, you are in a pickle. And kudos to the store owner for. I don't know if the gun was under the counter. I don't know if the gun was on the belt. I don't know where the gun was, but to get a gun up and to get a shot off while her gun was already drawn, that's no small feat.
It's not, and it's a good idea to get some training to realize that, if somebody's pointing a gun at you, they have to just press the trigger, and you're in trouble. But you might have to think about when is a good time for you to draw, because when they pull the gun out at you, that might not be the right time to do it. You might have to, if you're in this situation, if you're at the store, it might be when you're bending down to get the money, or pretend to drop some money and come up with a gun, pull it off your hip. It's good to have some sort of a plan, and obviously it's good to practice with this as well. And we see plenty of people that are instructors that can pull their gun out and fire a shot in well under a second and a half.
Yes. And none of them are Master Ken, by the way. I got to watching some of his videos on YouTube. Oh, my goodness. Although I will say I do enjoy the kick to the
groin. Kick to the groin, yes.
The kick to the groin at the end, yes. Yeah. And there's not really a whole lot more information we can go off here other than kudos to the gun store owner for getting the shot off when the bad guy's gun was, or bad girl's gun. And that's unusual. 16-year-old girl.
Yeah, this is true. Girls, not that girls aren't capable of committing crimes, but they're not really in your in the radar. It's not really what you think of, I guess.
Yeah. It's not very common. Can they do it? Sure. It's just not very common that it happens. All right, you want to talk to us about Florida?
All right, this comes to us from Escambia County, Florida. We have criticized the mental aptitude of Florida man, but Chicago man is giving them a run for their money. A man who claimed to come from Chicago walked into a Florida convenience store in Escambia County. He was casually carrying a shotgun. The store clerk, who remained out of sight of the surveillance camera, started talking to him. The clerk noticed that the shotgun before the man entered. The clerk noticed the shotgun before the man entered the store and had gone to the back of the room to arm himself with his own firearm. Quote, I don't mean no harm. I'm just not from around here. End quote. The man was heard saying, I've got a big flower box gun, and I'm not. What is a flower? I don't know. Well, I got a big flower box gun, and I'm not from around here, is what I'm trying to say. I'm from Chicago, bro. He can be heard asking the employee, what kind of weapon is he holding? The employee responds that the man blacked out from the store before the shooting started. I guess he was smart enough to recognize the felony attempt was being thwarted by lawful and righteous force. The Chicago man was arrested 6 days later in Santa Rosa County. During the report of the arrest, the authorities added, "You're not in Chicago anymore. You're under arrest." Nice.
Yeah, and if you were from Kansas, the cops could have said, "You're not in Kansas anymore, Toto." Anyway,
right. He's clicking his Jordans together, and you're not in Chicago anymore.
Yeah.
So a flower box. What is a flower box gun? Now I'm guessing a flower box gun is a gun that you would leave in the flower box to shoot someone that is on your porch.
I'm thinking that is just a substitution word for a four-letter word that begins with F. Well, no, a four-letter word ending with ing, so it would be a seven-letter word.
Gotcha. I'm going to start using this. Right? What the flower box?
That works. That way, and with this one, the clerk noticed. Apparently, there was external video, which is great. Remembering back to a California story here, a little over a month, maybe 2 months ago now, the store owner sees people getting out of a car. They've got ARs. They're arming up. They're putting masks on. He grabs his own shotgun, and as soon as the door opens, the guy walks in, boom, blows the guy's arm off. Not completely, but he'll never use it again. And the guy's a hero. He was able to do that because he's seen them approaching on external video. External video here, guy sees the guy coming with a big flower box gun, goes in the back, gets his own pistol, and I'm ready for you, pal.
This is a good thing. If you have, first of all, we should always assume there's a video camera everywhere. Everywhere, and you see the cameras. If you take a look at the ceilings and at the walls, you see cameras everywhere. So you should assume that even in the parking lot, you're on camera. Good for him for having a camera. Good for him for having the sense to have the cameras on and be paying attention to the cameras. And obviously, bonus points for being armed and having some sort of a security plan at his store.
Let me get this one in. Dana says, "Charlie, aren't you from Chicago?"
It's been a long time since I've been from Chicago. I moved away in the early 1900s, the early 1990s.
You're close to the same age, Charlie. I don't believe you were around in the early 1900s, although
no. I do tell people I'm doing what I'm doing since the 1900s, so that's
okay. I know they do wonderful things with plastic surgery, but
right. I tell people that being around kids and playing music keeps me young.
All right. Okay. We'll let that one sit there. How about we do this? We got one more break. We're going to get out of here a little early tonight. One more break, and then Charlie and I will tell you what we've been up to in media, and then we'll close the show down. Hang on. One more time. We'll be right back right after this.
It all failed before. Alcohol prohibition brought us organized crime, and no less alcohol. Drug prohibition brought us murderous, no-knock, wrong house raids.
Police! Search warrant!
No, wait! The crack house is next door!
Now gun prohibitionists want laws to lead us down that same path. Don't Americans ever learn? Just ask yourself, isn't government the only beneficiary of police-state policies? Brought to you by Jews for the Preservation of Firearms Ownership. Information available at jpfo.org.
Hey everyone, welcome to the final segment of the Polite Society podcast presented by the Firearms Policy Coalition. Rob's not here, so I can't ask him what he's got up over at Slowfax. John's not here, so I can't ask him what he's got up over at Only Guns and Money. But I would encourage you to go look at their blogs because they are always putting out great stuff. And I did that again, didn't I? Doggone it. There we go. Charlie, what? I know I've seen there's another riding shotgun with Charlie out, but I know there's also a riding shotgun with Charlie out. Tell everybody what you've been putting out lately.
All right. Well, I'm excited that issue number 3 of the Armed Lifestyle magazine is out. And I revisited one of my shows with Danny and Cheryl Todd, and I actually caught up with them and recorded another catch-up interview. And that is what I covered in the Armed Lifestyle, and that's a free magazine. It's an online magazine you can find at thearmedlifestyle.com. Tomorrow I have a show with Nathan Halliwell, and Nathan Halliwell is one of the salespeople at NextBelt, and I first became aware of NextBelt a couple years ago. They've been supporting the concealed carry fashion shows, and for a couple years now, I've been wearing a NextBelt belt. And I went out to Rancho Cucamonga in California and interviewed Nathan, and that show is going to be coming up tomorrow on video, on YouTube, and in podcast form as well.
You actually went out to Cal? That's well, it must have been during the gun prom thing, you know. It
was for gun prom. I did it back in June, and I got 4 interviews out there. And you know, I hate telling people, but I like to put the shows out from different places so it looks like I'm always traveling. It's a little bit of smoke and mirrors.
There you go.
So the interview with Nathan was great. It was great, and he's got some interesting stuff, and that's going to be coming out tomorrow.
Yeah, but you know what, Charlie? The Stagecoach really has, because you've been down in Southern California, you've been up to Washington, you've been here to Sioux Falls. You went down in Nebraska. You've been to the Chicago and Detroit areas. You were down in Dallas a couple times, Phoenix, down in Florida,
Nashville, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York. 32 states. 32 states? Yeah, 32 states, because I did, it was 30, California was 31, but coming back from Nashville, I stopped and filmed a show in Kentucky, in Lexington, Kentucky, a couple months ago. So I got 18 more states to go to, and most of them are on the other side of the Mississippi. So I got to start really pushing those feet pictures, you know.
And it's going to be, I'm guessing, a little bit of a challenge. Alaska can be done while still driving. Hawaii, you got to get pontoons for that.
Right. You know, it's not always my car. Sometimes it's a rental car. Sometimes it's a friend's car. But I did talk to the ladies. Christine is her name, from the whatever the program group in Hawaii is. Oh, she's one of the DC Project gals too. So I have someone in Hawaii. I think I could find someone in Alaska. It's more about getting there on top of finding someone to be on the show. So
sure. Well, on my end, as I stated at the beginning of the show, I am slowly putting out, and I'm hoping to get some more done tonight. I'm slowly putting out Gun Rights Policy Conference videos. I really hope I get them finished by the end of the week. I can't promise anything. The files reside on the computer that's right over there. And when I get a minute or two, I start to edit. It takes, believe it or not, it takes longer to edit and put out video from GRPC and AMCON than it does to sit through GRPC and AMCON. So you will get it. If there's a speaker you want to hear, or if you were a speaker, you're going to get a video. It's just, it may take me a little time, but it will happen. So that's what's going on my end. Let me come back. I believe that's going to wrap up another episode of the Second Amendment Foundation's Polite Society podcast. I'd like to thank Dr. Robert Young for joining us today. So for Amy, Dana, Gary, Tracy, John, Susan, Amanda, Robin, Charlie, and Rob, until next time,
Stay safe.
Be aware.
And we'll see you down the road.
The views and opinions on the show you just heard are those of the host and the guest and are not necessarily the views of any sponsors or other affiliations. But hey, not everyone is as smart as we are.
Okay, we are clear of recording. I'm going to go ahead and shut the streams down. We're not going to do any of a post-show simply because my back hurts and I've been sitting in front of this green screen now for way too long. Come join us next week, and please do come join me tomorrow, 5 p.m., and the rest of the week, 5 p.m. Central Time for The Bullet. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we will see you